look a little bit tired right now, but I think well, I am tired. I'm going to keep it a little bit short, but I think it's mostly allergies. Bought some honey today up in the um, Snowflake swap meet, uh, produced by ex-police officer, and they say that natural honey um, will cure allergies. You have to get the honey from the area that you're having the problems. Don't know if that's true, but for $10 and it's nice and sweet, I was willing to try it out. And so let's do some news. And tonight we're going to do news, not so long. We've already used up 43 seconds. And then I'm going to go to one of my series on my website, cowboyron.com. And one of the categories is Happy Trails of the West. And these are places that me and my family have been privileged to go to over a period of many years. Cars, tents, later on with the RV, and later on with RV with the horses behind us coming from the East Coast, Frederick, Maryland. Now, I really only review places I've actually been. And I like to assume if I had a good time, I'm sure you will too. But let's get to news first. Now, the Latter-day Saints Church, according to the news and some litigation they're in, already has enough of billions for a whole lot of rainy days. And the government is give them a $5 million fine for um, basically, I guess, not tax evasion, but avoiding taxes. I really haven't looked into it very much, but the the White House and his administration are anti-church and anti-constitution, and they don't really they trip themselves up all the time. My God, you would think people with college degrees could get their ducks lined up. And that's my opinion, and that's the way I see it. Don't forget my opinion. I will always go out of my way to let you know that it's an opinion. I know opinions like rectums. Everybody has one, but I looked at one time a text, but it went to the Supreme Court. Avoiding paying taxes is legal. Evading is illegal. In other words, that's what corporations like Donald Trump and General Motors do. They got plenty of CPAs that know every ounce of the tax law, and they take write-offs and things that they can do to eliminate their tax obligations. Now, the Cocaine Bear movie, um, I listened to one review, um, and it basically it's about a drug dealer drops a bunch of drugs, cocaine, I believe, out of an airplane. This bear gets into it. And the movie is going to go into it. It's going to take a lot of liberties. The writer said basically the story of the bear is in real life, uh, bear eat drugs, bear died. But it's going to be a good movie, I believe. I'm going to go see it. And the next couple of days, I'll give you a review on it, on how well I liked it. Now, speaking of liberties, John Ford made some good movies, but they weren't always too realistic. And it don't have to be that way for me. I go to the movies to relax, to see good scenery, a lot of good dialogue. And I don't go there really necessarily for a history lesson. But if you can give me a good movie, a good story first, and if it's also true, then that's a double blessing. Now, Senator McConnell, uh, he feels that the Ukraine aid is a direct investment against Putin. There's more and more newscasters on television saying we could be entering World War III, and that would be a billion and a half lost lives. And I've been predicting this for over 2 years. It could get out of hands. Now, Russia and China is two different places. I think Russia, Putin, will do what it takes to keep him in office. And if the people simply put their foot down, which is a good chance, then he will curtail his activity, especially if the Ukrainians keep kicking him in the ass. Now, China was going to be a different thing. Um, if they are, if their honor is offended, the majority of that nation would be willing to go to war, and they would have a 100-year plan. I listened to commentary tonight on Fox News. I think it was Dan Bongino, which I really like, but he said that they're not going to take over America by destroying everything because there'd be nothing there. Well, that's one opinion, but here's mine. For a country that's willing to wait 50, 100, 150 years, um, I would say everything is on the table because they can wait out to when they can come in. Now, here's our friend, the wannabe president, the governor of California, Newsom, and his latest war on oil is off to a rough start. I think basically what he wants to do is curtail the profits that oil companies can make. And the governor, gets around this troublesome detail that you can't pass laws against things that's against the Constitution. So why would he do that? He's not a, I won't say a fool. I won't rule that out. But he's well educated because he's playing to the base. I'm fighting the good fight. I'm trying to um, keep everything in California for you. Free this, free that. You men can have abortions. What have you. Now, Sanders supporters took over the Nevada Democratic Party, and it's not going well because the American people are seeing through all this. And in 2 more years, 18 more months, they're going to take a hit, and they're going to lose more ground unless they change their attitude and start govern the states, the country, the counties, even down to the dog catchers and the firehouse, in a well thought out plan, in a mature plan, instead of just popping off at the mouth before they knew what they're talking about. Now, I want to talk about on my blog site, which I've had for about 7, 8 years. I have a category called, excuse me a second, this allergies is making my throat rough. It's called Happy Trails of the West. And primarily, it's all about places that I've actually been and enjoyed. You'll find I won't be giving bad reviews, so you'll have to learn when I talk about it. When I say this is good, you're going to understand. I mentioned, I think, before Rex Allen's Museum in Wilcox, Arizona. If you're an RVer or wherever you're driving, it's easy to get off of. It's an I-10, I think about 60 miles when you get into Arizona. It's on the eastern side of our state. And you can go into that museum. It only costs a couple of dollars. You can see a panoramic picture when they dedicated it and all the B Western movie stars showed up. And I'm talking about the heavy B Westerns, Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, Lone Ranger. If they were alive, they were there. And right across, and you can see the buckboard he used to have on his TV show, Frontier Doctor. And right across the park, they have a wonderful statue of him and Rex and Coco. That was his horse. And Coco was billed by Hollywood as the world's most beautiful horse. And he's playing a guitar, and the animals are just loving him. And I think Coco is actually buried in that park. Now, Goldfield, Nevada, that's a really a good little town to get out and walk around in. I believe it's off of 395. We were going up there, heading with the RV. Got out and did some rope spinning. Went to the Virginia, the Chamber of Commerce, and she just showed me around the town. Her name was Virginia, just a lovely lady. But they got a hotel there, a lot of history in there. Frank Sinatra stayed there. Joe McCraig stayed there, and also they mentioned Joe McCraig either wired or sent Will Rogers a letter, wanted to buy a ranch out there. I wanted to know if it was time because he was a new actor. And Will Rogers saying back in those saying, "You're secure. And when it comes to buying land, you can't go wrong. They ain't making no more." And uh, and that's on 395. I went through it many times with the tractor trailer, which is not always good places to pull a big wheeler over. Now we stayed in Virginia City, Nevada, and that ride up there with the RV, you look off the cliff, and I remember just thousands and thousands of feet down to the bottom. And my wife, all she kept saying is my poor RV. She likes RVs better than I do. I like tents better. But um, Virginia City, we went into the Comstock mine, and that mine, when they discovered silver there, that pretty well got the Transcontinental Railroad uh, going, heading out west to get that silver. And Louis L'Amour, the famous writer, wrote a book about the Comstock Lode. And walking up and down the town of the cowboy stores and the souvenir shops, that was really neat. And I'm going to tell you about something about them that's not true about all of these tourist towns that we go into. If you went into a shop and you requested a certain item, if she didn't have it or he didn't have it, they get on the phone, they find another store that had it for you. So the town really cooperates with each other. It makes it a great place. Also, one of the places we went to is Death Valley National Park. And incidentally, Death Valley is the only place in the United States that's below sea level. And it's the hottest place in the United States. Yuma, Arizona is second. And I took an 8-hour horseback ride out there, me and my wife. And I had my John Wayne bib shirt. And there were some tourists, I think they were from South America someplace. And they were running up alongside of me, getting a picture of me. And I'm trying to sit straight in that saddle. I was learning how to ride. And I told my wife to push off right ahead a little bit because they didn't want any pictures of tourists. And they got a lot of pictures, and I had a lot of fun. Now, another place I went to is Will Rogers Museum. A lot of history there. That's up in northern Oklahoma in Claymore. You'll have a good time if you like history, especially like Will Rogers, a lot of his speeches. And also, they pay tribute to Wiley Post. As you know, Will Rogers, he died with Wiley Post in Pork Barrel, Alaska. And what happened when they took off, Wiley Post had the front prop on that airplane was 170 pounds overweight. And when you stall out below close to ground, that's a big problem. One more thing, everybody's seen Will Rogers do these ropes tricks with two hands. I can do it, but he was not ambidextrous. What happened when he was young and entertaining? He broke his right arm or sprung it was in a cast. He needed to make money, so he started learning spinning rope with his left hand. And I understand if you use one hand against the other for 30 days, you'll become ambidextrous. I'm going to get a sling and try that out eventually. And the other one we really liked was the Billy the Kid Museum. That's in Lincoln, New Mexico, and that is off I-40. I believe we got off of Santa Rosa. Santa Rosa is another great town. A lot of Western wear stores. A big lake at there. Very proud of it. It's blue. They say it's bottomless. Of course, it has a bottom. And then you got to go about 30 miles to get to Lincoln. Nice little bookstore down there. I bought a book one time. They mentioned all the hangings in New Mexico. What else we got here? McLean, Texas is right next to Shamrock. And both places I really liked. I used to know the guy that Dr. Lester that owned the Shamrock Inn. Great restaurant. But McLean, Texas, they have a museum. It's a barbed wire museum. And it shows the cowboys and big stages with not stage, but buckboards with their bedroll stacked up. It seems like a mile high. And I think it was like $1 a person to get in. And the ladies that run that museum would get up extra early in the mornings and bake cookies for the guests. Nice people, nice part of the country. And also the Big Tech Steak House. And I've been there many times. I got to meet Bobby Lee. He explained the history of it, how his father started. And the deal is if you eat a 72-ounce steak in an hour, and it looks like a roast, they used to have one out there with all the trimmings, the baked potato and the salad, in an hour, you get the free steak. Or else, if you can't eat it, they'll wrap up what you don't eat and you can take it home. Um, there's one lady I was told that actually ate three of them back to back. Said she had an eating disorder. She was not a big lady. Bobby Lee tells me, I'm going to give you a trade secret. He says the secret of it is to start and don't slow down. And so I don't want to keep us too long tonight. I'm going to say goodbye, and we'll have some more on this. Let me know what you think, and if you got any stories about the West, I always like hearing stories that someone's great grandfather told them. I mean, it may not always be quite accurate, but it's always a good story. I'll give you an example. When I was on my bus, a man told me a story about Sam Houston, Temple Houston. Temple Houston was a lawyer. He was Sam Houston's son. And like Sam, he liked to drink. Well, one day this cowboy got in a fight in a bar, shot and killed a guy. So he went to Temple Houston. He says, Temple, what are you going to charge to get me off? And Temple looked at him. He says, well, that depends. Are you going to pay for the witnesses or am I going to pay for the witnesses? Well, that's it for the night. Stay warm. The weather's bad. Keep your distance when you're driving. And again, encourage your children to learn how to read. Cowboy Ron from Happy Trails of the West, saying so long.